So The Flash, a movie directed by a lot of people and written by a lot of different people, and a movie that has been delayed many times, and a movie that has had 18 different plots, which when you think about it, is actually kind of fitting for the character considering how many timelines Barry breaks. But hey everyone, welcome to my Flash review, a long overdue review. I hate to say it, the Flash movie didn't do it for me. I'm gonna just jump into it and not, beat around the bush. The Flash movie was something I was very hyped for. If you know me personally, my two favorite superheroes are Spider-Man and the Flash. They both have very captivating and emotional stories that root me to the character and makes me want to be emotionally attached to them. Barry Allen is no exception to this clause. I really think he's a very strong character in many different ways. He's very dynamic, and the show did a very good job at portraying that via Grant Gustin. But when it came to Ezra Miller, I think that it lacked a lot, not because of the actor's portrayal, sans all the controversy around Ezra Miller. I think Ezra Miller did a pretty good job with what he was given. I just think that the writing just wasn't there. Now let me start with the plot of the movie. So I just discount Flashpoint is the best way I can put it. So Barry goes back in time to save his mom from being killed, which to me is a very good, it's my favorite comic book story of all time. Flashpoint is very iconic, very emotional, very rich. It's peak storytelling. And I felt that although it's a good story to tell for a Flash movie, it needs to be built up. You need to care about the character. You want to understand why he's finally made this decision to go back in time. That's why Flashpoint works so well as like a reboot or after you spent time with the character, because you've seen that emotional journey Barry Allen has gone on. Like, take the Flash show, for example. At the end of the first season, he does go back in time to stop his mom, and then he gets stopped by a future version of himself saying, no, you can't do this. And he kind of takes a step back and realizes, yeah, maybe I shouldn't. But he never gets closure. He never gets that full realization as to the consequences that could bring. Flash forward another season, no pun intended, we have him actually go back in time and stop his mom. He's just lost everything. His dad was just killed. He is just completely over losing the people he cares most about. And that's why he makes that decision. In this movie, it seems he just makes that decision because he could. They didn't have that emotional buildup that much. They did mention that his dad was locked away for it and he was fighting to get his dad out of it, which is a really strong part of the movie. Those parts of Barry Allen's character is what makes his character so good. It's not necessarily the Flash, because the Flash can be Wally West, Jesse Quick, Barry Allen, Jay Garrick. There's a lot of people who have taken the mantle of the Flash, but it's Barry Allen as a character that makes it so interesting. Take Miles Morales and Peter Parker. Both are Spider-Man, but what makes them interesting Spider-Man or Spider-Men is who they are underneath that mask, the journey they go on as characters, the emotional depth that you're able to explore with these two. And I don't think that the Flash quite captivated that for me. As a narrative overall, it was Flashpoint, a discount version of it, and I think it didn't land the idea of the consequences of Barry going back in time. Overall, a really cool idea executed poorly due to a lack of build-up and emotional attachment to the character. So I want to talk about the special effects, the CGI, the soundtrack, just blend all that in together. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought the soundtrack was absolutely amazing. Very well done. I love a good soundtrack. I love listening to soundtracks just in my own time. It helps me de-stress. It helps me think. And it gives you chills. It makes you think about why you love these stories. Those soundtracks just kick that part of my brain, gets me hyped sometimes. So this movie really satisfied that part of storytelling for me, is the soundtrack. Special effects, I've said this before, I'm not someone who stares at every little detail and will be like, dang, that is bad green screen. And if it's blatantly bad, yes, I'll notice it. But I didn't have a moment like that in this film where I was like, wow, that was bad. Like the whole mustache thing with Henry Cavill back in Justice League, I know that was a big thing. I didn't notice it when I was watching the movie because I'm not paying attention to that. I was just so excited to watch the movie. So I didn't really notice it. Maybe I would now that I've seen more CGI. So I didn't have a problem with it. I can understand the complaints behind it after seeing people talk about it. But while I was watching the film for the first time, I didn't have those complaints. So from a soundtrack, special effects point of view, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to keep this section short. The acting, absolutely phenomenal. I really liked Ezra Miller's portrayal of Barry Allen here. I didn't like his portrayal in Justice League. I thought that he just seemed really goofy and not Barry Allen. He felt more like Bart Allen in a way. And that's not a bad thing. You want to make the character different than what the TV show did. And I don't know if that was like a purposeful thing or they were trying to be different. And that being Zack Snyder, who wrote the character originally. I just don't think it worked for me then. It didn't have that emotional dynamic, I guess is the right word to use. Versus here, you get to spend a lot more time with the character. So you get to see Ezra Miller really embrace Barry Allen. And I think it worked really well. I'm glad they made him Jewish. Barry Allen is Jewish in the comics. That was a really nice thing to build upon. I really love comic accuracy. What's the point of being excited to see your favorite characters on the big screen if they're not going to reflect the ideals and the look and the motivations that the character is supposed to have? And I felt that reflected here. It would be nice to have a blonde Barry Allen because he's blonde in the comics, but I mean, I'd rather the character just be played for who they are as a person as opposed to looks. That's more important to me, and I felt I got that here. Barry Allen is also a goofy character at times. He is very naive at first. He is learning his way around the Flash and the Speed Force and what all that means to him as a person, why he's doing this, why he shouldn't just bend the rules of the timeline and whatnot. I thought that Ezra Miller did a great job captivating that here. And there was a lot of other strong performances, that being, you know, Sasha as Supergirl, who was very happy to play the character, which made me feel for the character, knowing that she was a Supergirl fan herself. And I think what they did with her here was very amazing. All the other performance, Michael Keaton, I don't need to say, great. Ben Affleck, great. And all the other supporting cast. Ezra Miller, he did do double duty here with the other version of Barry Allen in the Flashpoint timeline. Overall, I think Ezra Miller did a standout job here. So I just want to talk about a few things I really did love about the film, then I'll get into some negatives, and then I'll kind of wrap this up. Something that really stood out to me in this film was the fact that they at least tried to do Flashpoint. Flashpoint, although it wasn't executed very well here, I'm a sucker for it. It's a great story. And I think making this movie as a way to reboot the franchise was a very smart move. You want a reason to explain why there's so many different versions of Batman and Superman, why there's so many different stories going on, whereas Marvel is very consistent with their movies. They have a very strict, you know, phase system, and DC doesn't have that. Now they do with James Gunn taking the helm here. Whether you like James Gunn or not, that's for you to decide, but we have him. I personally like James Gunn. He is a fantastic director, a fantastic writer, and I'm excited to see what he does. But I think choosing Flashpoint as the starting point for this reboot is a smart idea, even if I would prefer it to be executed better. I just understand why they did it, is what I'm trying to say. I'd rather them do this than Crisis, and then that's like the big buildup you want, and they just throw that away. So I'm really happy we got a Flashpoint movie. I just wish it was written better, but definitely still grateful for it. Outside of the soundtrack, the special effects, I think those were all great. Performances were great. All the cameos were really great, and it made me very excited as a DC fan. There's a lot of cool moments in this film that you appreciate as a comic book fan, as a Flash fan, as a Batman fan, as a Superman fan, as a Flashpoint fan. There's a lot of things to appreciate here. I really liked those moments with Barry and his mom. Very cool stuff. The Flash TV show had that moment with like the runaway dinosaur. That book, that episode was an incredibly heart-wrenching moment with Barry and his mom. That's what makes him Barry Allen. And you have those moments here with his dad and with his mom, and you really feel for the character. So those moments I felt were the best in the movie, when he wasn't the Flash, but when he was just Barry Allen. There was a lot of funny moments here too. I think the comedy worked really well. I really like that scene where he is realizing he just lost his powers and he's running and he's not activating the Speed Force, whereas the other Barry has it. Really funny stuff. And when he's saving all the babies and he goes to pretend like he's going to go get the baby, but really he's eating food, which is funny. Barry has a very fast metabolism. He needs to eat to keep his energy up. And they kind of tied that in here, and I really did appreciate that. There are consequences to using his speed, so seeing a moment like that was very cool. All the Easter eggs were fantastic, and I'm not talking about the cameos. Cameos are always great if they're not just thrown in there for no reason at all, which I guess were kind of thrown in here, but there also was a reason, that being, you know, the worlds colliding and whatnot. By Easter eggs, I mean Flashpoint Easter eggs. There's that moment where Barry's trying to get his powers back, which is straight out of the comics. You have Batman helping him, and he's strapped to the chair trying to recreate the accident that gave him his powers in the first place. You have them breaking out Supergirl, which is a really nice parallel to them breaking out Superman. You have General Zod coming back. They're tying in Man of Steel. They're tying in a lot of great moments from the DCEU, which really worked to solidify their version of Flashpoint. With all that being said, that's what leads me into my negatives. And I've already said this version of Flashpoint didn't satisfy me as a Flashpoint fan. And I would like to start talking about Batman. I think Batman heavily foreshadowed a lot of the Flash here. I love Batman's character. It was really cool to see all these Batman return, George Clooney and Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, but this is a Flash film. There's nothing wrong with having other characters in your movie. Take Flashpoint, for example. You have Thomas Wayne Batman as the focal point for Barry learning the consequences of his action. And throughout the course, he's there, but it's always focused on Barry. Thomas Wayne Batman never foreshadows the story, foreshadows the plot. It's always still focused on Barry and the consequences of his actions. And at that point in the comic, you don't even realize it was Barry who went back in time, which is a really cool twist, which is another thing I really wish they tied into the plot here, but I will drop that. I know it's not my Flashpoint, it's their version of Flashpoint. So I get it. I'll take it for what it is. All the cameos at the end of the movie with all the Batman and Superman, great. We only had one Flash cameo in the Flash movie. That was a random Jay Garrick. Not even the Jay Garrick from the TV show. We didn't even get Grant Gustin, even though Ezra Miller was in Crisis on Infinite Earth. Like, I get it. You want cool cameos to sell your movie, but it didn't work for me because you had Nicolas Cage Superman. Why would you use Nicolas Cage and not Jay Garrick from the Flash TV show? Why would you not use Grant Gustin, who's already an established Flash? That's how you get an audience excited, not a random Batman and a random Superman. You want Flash cameos. It is a Flash movie. If this was Crisis on Infinite Earths, where you have all the characters, that would have worked. But this was Flash, and I really think that they should have had more Flash-oriented cameos like Accelerated Man, Jay Garrick, Wally West, Bartholomew Allen, even Excess, which isn't even a comic book character. Just a lot of cool characters they could have used. Max Mercury, Jesse Quick. But no, they just wanted to focus on Batman and Superman. And I don't know if that's because they didn't think the Flash could sell a movie, because he's a well-known character now, but he's not as well-known as or as popular as Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, very iconic characters, Spider-Man. I just think that they needed to give him a chance. Overall, those are my main negatives and positives for the film. I'm not here to dissect it frame by frame. I thoroughly enjoyed the film, and I would like to talk about the post-credit scenes. I just remember the one which has to do with Aquaman. Why is there a random, why is Aquaman still Aquaman, but Batman's different? I really wish they explained that better and not just shoehorn characters in, because it didn't feel like anything changed at the end. They never explained whether this is the new solidified timeline or if Barry ended up in a different timeline, because I really don't like when they leave things too ambiguous. Even as a comic book fan who knows how Flashpoint works, I'm left confused. Imagine a general audience member who's like, why is this random guy here? Why is this guy Batman? Especially if you haven't seen the other Batman films. Why would they care about George Clooney? And I'm not saying you don't have to have cool Easter eggs for fans who have spent their time investing their life into these films and enjoying the world of DC. You don't have to not include things because you're afraid a general audience member won't understand it. But when you do include things like this, you still need an explanation to kind of tell the audience member, okay, so this is the reason why they're here. Because as of right now, the DCEU is dead. Zack Snyder has no more control over this side right now. Hopefully he does get that back, but that is a debate for another day I'm not ready to go into right now. I am just saying there's no Flash sequel. There's no The Flash will guaranteed return. We don't even know if Ezra Miller is even going to play The Flash again. So those are the things that really suck when it comes to these post-credit scenes and the end of the film. I'm not really a fan of George Clooney Batman. I much prefer Ben Affleck. I much prefer Robert Pattinson, but again, not gonna let Batman foreshadow a Flash video like Batman overshadowed the Flash movie. It is what it is. Overall, a solid film. I'd rate it a solid 7 out of 10. Really did enjoy the Flash film. Wish it was something else. Wish it was a little bit more and a little bit more comic accurate, but for what we got, it was still enjoyable. Thank you all so much for watching though. Let me know what your favorite moment was from the Flash movie down in the comments below. And if you want to see Ezra Miller as the Flash again, if you want to see Zack Snyder's, universe come back, what do you think James Gunn is going to do going forward? But yeah, again, thank you guys so much for watching and discussing the Flash movie with me. If there's anything I missed, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to have a discussion with you guys. I have a lot of new videos coming out that I'm really excited to work on, and I'll get into that later. But for now, I want to work on my backlog and catch up on all the movie reviews I missed, like Oppenheimer and stuff. Yeah, with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.
Subscribe to Zang Helios for some more unfreaking believable content.